And to withstand China's pressure, India needs partners, countries that share India's strategic vision. Today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited one such partner, the United Arab Emirates, UAE. It was a quick stop. He arrived in Abu Dhabi at around 3:30 p.m. local time. He held a meeting with the new president, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and by 5 p.m. he was on the plane back to India, just about 2.5 hours. Like I said, a very short trip, but nonetheless, a very important, substantial one. Prime Minister Modi's visit had 4 important objectives. Let's tell you about them. Number 1, to pay his respects to the late President Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan. He ruled the UAE from 2004 to 2022. He passed away in the month of May. The new president is actually his brother, and both men played a crucial role in expanding India-UAE ties. Reason number 2, to reset ties after the Prophet controversy. The UAE had condemned the remark by India's ruling party spokesperson. They called it contrary to moral and humanitarian values. Now, this put India in a tough spot. The UAE is a crucial strategic and economic partner. Their total trade is worth around $60 billion. Around 3.5 million Indians live and work in the Emirates. So India went into damage control. The spokesperson has since been suspended, and now the Prime Minister himself has visited the country. How has the UAE responded to this outreach? Well, so far it looks good. The President, MBN himself, welcomed Prime Minister Modi at the airport. He accompanied him to the presidential palace. So diplomatically, the incident looks to be buried. But what about the real-world fallout? That's yet to be contained. Let me tell you what happened in the Indian city of Udaipur today. A man was beheaded by 2 others in broad daylight. The reason? He supported the comments made by BJP spokesperson Palki Sharma, the ones against Prophet Muhammad. The attackers made a video of the beheading, so clearly this controversy has not been forgotten. The Muslim nations may not be championing it anymore, but the campaign has been radicalized. You have threats from Al-Qaeda against India, attacks by the Islamic State in Afghanistan, and now a beheading in India. Countries like the UAE must speak out against this violence. They must call for peace and dialogue. The third objective of this visit is cooperation. India and the UAE share a strategic vision. Both countries are part of the West Asian Quad. They now call it the I2U2. This grouping includes 4 countries: Israel, India, the UAE and the United States. It was formed in 2021 and things are moving at a rapid pace there. Next month, in the month of July, Joe Biden will be traveling to West Asia. He will join the other leaders for a virtual summit. Now, that is quick diplomacy. The foreign ministers met in October last year, and in less than 8 months, the heads of state are meeting. So the momentum is there, but can India capitalize on it? Individually, India has great ties with all the countries, with the UAE, with Israel, and with the US. But the other 3 are rivals of Iran. So India's job will be to focus on the shared interests, mainly the economy. The West Asian Quad is a web of free trade agreements. Israel and the UAE have a free trade agreement. So do India and the UAE, and then Israel and the US. So do you see the potential here? The US brings the security apparatus, the UAE brings the money, Israel brings the technology, and India brings the talent. So put together, this group can transform West Asia. Objective number 4, bilateral defense ties. I'll give you an example of this. Last week, Indian Air Force jets were flying to Egypt. They were scheduled to take part in a tactical leadership program. Now, India to Egypt is a long flight, which means the jets had to refuel. Enter the UAE. The Emirati Air Force refueled Indian Sukhoi jets mid-air. And this is not the first time. In January last year, the UAE did the same for Indian Rafale jets. They were flying from France to India. The UAE helped them refuel. And these examples symbolize a growing defense relationship. In fact, India and the UAE have a special group dedicated to it, the Joint Defense Cooperation Committee, that's what it's called. The 11th meeting was held in the month of May. And what did they discuss? Joint exercises and weapons trade. India participated in the Dubai Air Show last year. They also took part in the UAE's desert flag drills. But what about trade? The UAE has expressed interest in a number of Indian weapons, like the Tejas aircraft, the BrahMos missile, the Akash missile. But nothing substantial ever came out. And I'll tell you why. Almost 70% of the UAE's weapons come from the US. It's basically a monopoly. So Abu Dhabi never had to look elsewhere. But now things are changing. The Biden administration is split on arming the UAE, especially in the war in Yemen. And this gives India a chance to enter this market, maybe score a few important deals. So this visit may be short on time, but it is high on substance, strategy, economy, defense. Most of the issues dictate the India-UAE relationship. Do you know what doesn't? Religion. It has never been a deciding factor in India-UAE ties, and India is making sure that does not change. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.